Okay, hello everyone. Um, Welcome to the National 2021 Virtual Landcare Conference. And our stream, this stream is the Environmental and Climate Change stream. And I would like to introduce Linda Sparrow and Jack Lennon from Bangalow Koalas. And just would like to encourage everyone to submit your questions to the question box that you see on the screen. So now over to you, Linda. Would you like to start your session?
Thank you and welcome. Thank you for the welcome, and we're very humbled and honoured to be here today. So we'll start with what we're all about. So Bangalow Koalas Community Wildlife Corridor is something that started from just a small group of concerned neighbours who were trying to protect a 400-metre stretch of koala trees in Bangalow, which has now grown into a registered environmental organisation, creating a community wildlife corridor across the northern rivers of New South Wales. And our corridor has actually grown from just going from Bangalow out to Repentance Creek in the Lismore Shire to now, as a direct result of the bushfires, it's grown from Byron Bay, it's heading out towards Tenterfield, it's going north to the Queensland border, and it's going south to Grafton. And that's from people contacting us and wanting to help and to do something after the devastating drought and bushfires. So from the very start, we worked really closely with Byron and Lismore councils, trying to work out where we should be going to make sure that the corridor is actually connecting and doing something worthwhile. So our goal is aiming to plant 250,000 trees by the end of 2025. And currently, to date, we've actually planted just under 145,000 trees since 2018, and 80% of that has been actually since February 2020. And that's due also again to the fires, because after those fires, we were getting contacted by people all over the place that wanted to do something and wanted to help. And so we originally planned to do 25,000 trees last year, but I upped it to 40,000 trees. But by the end of the year, we ended up planting 53,500 trees, and that's despite COVID and not being able to have community plantings. So we've done 57 plantings on 43 properties, and by the end of this month, we would have planted 156,000 trees. So as you can see, we're well on our way to achieving the 250,000. And in fact, we've kicked the ball out of the ballpark and we're aiming a lot higher than that. So our three things that we try to do is try to educate, involve and inspire the community. And we do this by a number of ways. So education, it's not just about planting trees. We were actually Jake and I were part of the Green Innovations Award mentoring program that started this year. And we were helping the Bexhill Primary School, which was just a gorgeous experience. And they're actually a finalist in the awards, which is happening in the next month. We also do landholder workshops. And these workshops from both the bush regen side, planting, etc., to the ecology side of how to help koalas and habitat improvements and the status of koalas and stuff like that. So those workshops are aimed twofold: to encourage more people to join the corridor, so we do them all over the northern rivers, but also people that want to do it themselves, the correct ways to plant and how to help koalas. We also do health and habitat workshops, and we do that with Friends of the Koala, and that's telling people and teaching people how to tell the difference between a sick koala, a healthy koala, the habitat, what sort of trees we need to plant. And it's just, if we come across a sick koala, what to do, the rescue procedures, etc. We also do kiddie workshops, which that gives me a chance to dress up in my koala suit, as you can see on that screen there. So I'm actually doing one in a couple of weeks out at Casino. So again, it's the Linda and Lola show. We go to preschools, we go to primary schools. Lola's from Friends of the Koala. And again, it's educating kids about what a sick koala looks like, what a healthy koala looks like, what to do if they see one, to get their parents to call the rescue line. It's also about teaching them to teach their parents about responsible dog ownership. And also, because we have a lot of koala signs that we put out across the area, it's teaching them, if they see these koala signs, to tell their parents to slow down. So you're educating the kids to educate the adults. And also, finally, and one of my favourite things is mentoring. So we're helping other people do what we do, because the important thing is, imagine if there's more than one group like us, in whether it's in New South Wales or across the country, that is managing to plant, 80,000 trees in a year, which is what we're going to be doing by the end of this year. So it's all these facets of trying to encourage people to get involved. And also with our community engagement and how we do it, it's letterbox drops. We do newsletters out to our database. We do, with our plantings, it's local press and media. Social media is obviously a big thing. We do fundraising drives, market stalls, and obviously the biggest thing is our community planting. So even though we're not doing the big plantings we did prior to COVID, we still are managing to do some community plantings. We've got 3 this month. But back when we started, we had 2,600 trees. This is a couple of years ago that we needed to plant. And we had 180 people turn up from southeast Queensland and 4 shires in the Northern Rivers. And we planted all those trees in 45 minutes, which was amazing. And the wonderful thing is it's all generations. So you've got your grandparents, parents, kids, you've got single people, you've got old people. One of our oldest volunteers, Jeffrey, he's turning 82 this year, and he comes to all these plantings, and you think, this is amazing, like how, why, and it's just makes us keep doing what we're doing, striving harder, planting more trees. And we also have citizen scientist stuff. So we're recording koala sightings, which we share with Friends of the Koala. And that's all about, so we know where koalas are, so we know where we need to have our signs, which you can see there. We've fundraised to get up and around all over the Northern Rivers. And that's got the rescue line number. And that is really a key thing in trying to get people to slow down, especially now when it's the mating season and they're all over the place, crossing roads and in places that they shouldn't be. And one of the reasons why we've done so well is we've built relationships, not just with the community, not just with landholders, but with other community groups. So from the very beginning, Bangalow Lions and Summerland Credit Union, they were there at the very first planting that we did with Byron Council. So they did the Lions did a sausage sizzle, the Summerland Credit Union had the marquees, and they've supported us doing some other plantings and stuff like that. The Rotary, Byron Bay Rotary, have donated 2 years in a row, and we've used that funds for planting. The CWA, they get me to talk there as well. And obviously the preschools and primary schools. So it's having these wonderful relationships that we started from the very beginning with councils, so that we were dealing with councils and Landcare groups and community groups and schools and everything like that. And everyone has jumped on board and wants to do more. Our other thing that we want to do is inspire the community. So we do that engaging empathetic landholders, working with the councils. So we work with Lismore and Byron and Ballina and Richmond Valley councils and the Landcare groups. So from the very beginning, we connected with Byron, Brunswick Valley Landcare and Richmond Valley Landcare and Kyogle. And we're working with all these Landcare groups, councils, the community, and which is a wonderful thing for us. We've now partnered with a traditional owner group, the Minyumai Rangers. So the Rangers are now, we're getting them on country, they're coming to plantings, they're doing maintenance, they've come to us for some mentoring help, and obviously it's just a wonderful thing. We want to get them on country more, we want to engage with more Indigenous groups across the Northern Rivers. And then, of course, we've got a dedicated cohort of members and volunteers. So we've got this big database of people from all our plantings, and then we call on them to help plant and volunteer for that, and volunteer to hold the market stalls, etc. And our partnerships. So we're very fortunate. We've just done a partnership with WWF where we're going to collaborate for 3 years to plant 100,000 trees. And that started this year. So that's across the Northern Rivers, and that's going to help us achieve our goal and some. And as I said, the Minyumai Land Holding Aboriginal Corporation that we've partnered with, and One Tree Planted funded our trees. So we've got our trees funded. Forestry New South Wales are providing trees as well, and New South Wales State Government, DPIE, have provided us with seedlings and stuff like that, so we can manage to plant our trees, because to do 80,000 trees in a year, and if you don't have the trees funded, would be an impossible ask. And we've also partnered with federal, state and local councils, so we've got funding from all those levels, as I said, Landcare groups and rescue and rehabilitation groups. And so now I'm just going to put you over to Jake, and he's going to finish off our session, and then he'll stay here for our last lot of questions and answers. So welcome to Jake.
Hoi, good day. I'm stoked to be able to speak at this thing. I really appreciate it. And so, yeah, I'm a bush regenerator, and I met Linda working on sites, working on plantings. And I also work in the nursery industry. So I work as a seed collector, and I work growing the trees that we plant. So building out my relationship with Linda has been amazing, because I've had an opportunity to work with different parts of the industry to help coordinate our planting. So one of the amazing things about community engagement for a project this big, I find, is that it needs to be multifaceted in its approach to sourcing plants. So this has brought together 3 separate nurseries in our region, who then have to have their own community, which is brought together stronger. So we work with a local koala volunteer nursery, and we work with a professional forestry nursery, and then we work with a professional rainforest nursery who I work with directly. So between those 3, we provide our trees by some miracle at times. And then also, while I'm working at Firewheel Nursery, we're outsourcing the production of those trees to larger nurseries up the coast. So that's all helping to create that community of effort and that strong relationship that means that you're solid in your work and that you're confident that you're going to achieve your goals. So we work with also a relatively small, really, regen company, but larger than a simple family operation, East Coast Bush Regeneration. And that's been a really big part of our community engagement as well. So when the coronavirus came along, we had to switch our planting approach. So what began with heaps of volunteers turning up on a Saturday to a pre-prep planting actually turned into volunteers coming every day, Monday through to Friday, and participating in the process of planting a tree with professional regenerators. So having these volunteers on site has really engaged with the community and the industry together. So the professionals have gotten to know the volunteers, and the volunteers have gotten to know the professionals. From this is a source of employment for people. We've picked up volunteers, and suddenly they've been working full-time on our plantings, young people that have come along. And then likewise, we've picked up new jobs and new projects, new people who are enthusiastic about koalas. And so this has just been amazing for our project. So yeah, that's pretty much all I have to talk about, really. We have a little bit more time left. We have 5 minutes more left. So I might talk about.
Yes. So what we could do, it's up to you. It's your time. What we could do, we could move to questions, or you can just keep going. It's entirely up to you, because we still have 4 minutes or 5 minutes before question time. So it's up to you.
We we're just too efficient, aren't we? See, we're not only very efficient at planting trees, we're very efficient at doing our presentation. Now, what I'd just like to probably finish off on this, what we're doing all together, is that the most important thing that I'd like to get across is that if just a small group of neighbours that want to just protect a 400-metre stretch of trees suddenly is planting this massive corridor across the northern rivers and getting people that I've got contacted by people in Mackay saying, do you plant trees there? Or someone down in Dubbo and Mudgee and whatever, who all want to do what we're doing. And at the very beginning, we had our brains trust of people that, you know, we had ecologists, bush regen people, accountants, all sorts of business people that were on the committee and when we're forming this and making sure that we did it properly and we did everything well and to our best ability. And we spend all our time writing grants. So if I literally write all these grants and then the reports, and that's how we fund it. We could be planting all year if we had the funding, because we've got the landholders that wanted to join us and do it. We've got the community support and we've got councils and government support. So the only thing that's stopping us from just planting forever is actual funds. But I want to just, the main thing is we're actually giving hope to koalas and other wildlife. We're actually also giving hope to people that they can actually do something from a grassroots level and actually do something that neither the federal or state government are actually getting around to doing. We're just cutting through all the red tape and we're just doing it because koalas don't have time for us to fart ass around. We have to do something now. And so, you know, if other people want to do what we're doing and they want help to form a group like us, we'll happily help. So we're just connecting people on the ground in conservation and giving hope to koalas and for people as well. And that's my last thing that I'd like to point out. Jake?
Awesome. Well, let's do questions then.
Yes.
Okay, fantastic. Well, thanks very much, Linda and Jake. That was really inspiring. And 150,000 trees planted out of your target of 250,000 trees. That's incredible. What such a group is able to achieve. Now, we have 7 minutes or 8 minutes for questions. So the question that got most votes is from Helen. And the question is, what is the plan for maintaining tree plantings? Because plantings often fail from lack of follow-up. So how would you like to answer that?
Okay, well, all of our plantings, it's a very good question. Every single one of our plantings, there's no point in just putting trees in the ground and then you walk away. So all of our plantings includes the maintenance, includes 3 years maintenance. So when we're going for grants or when we're talking to landholders, there has to be that 3 years maintenance, the minimum, so that those trees have got a chance to actually survive and thrive. Because if you just put the trees in the ground and you walk away, then you may as well not bother to do it in the first place. And Jake, you've been the bush regen person?
Yeah, so that's something that we've worked really hard on. And it's a big challenge as well as these plantings get larger to keep getting enough regenerators on the ground to do the work. But really, Linda set a high standard so that she will not plant trees unless she has the funding to do the maintenance. And it's really impressive, yeah.
Right, so that's fantastic. Now, the second question here is from Marie. Do you have someone working full-time on all of the community engagement and community partnership tasks?
Yep, you're looking at her.
Okay, cool.
Linda also has...
And I also have someone that's helping me 2 days a week now because we've got so many grants that we've got active at the moment that it is like literally I do 50 to 60 hours a week. But come here. So we've actually got another person that's helping me. This is Charlotte. So she's in the background. She does a lot of she's now helping me write grants and reports and stuff like that. And Charlotte is also she's a bush regenerator as well. So she's out there in the fields, maintaining, prepping, planting and stuff like that. And actually, Jake, Charlotte and I have done a community planting on a Saturday, and we're about to do another one this month. You don't know that yet, but you are. But yeah, so literally most of the stuff I do.
Okay, fantastic. Thank you. Now, the next question here is from, just one second, from Anonymous. How is Bangalow Koalas working with Landcare volunteers? That's the question.
Okay, so from the very, very beginning, because when we first started, I didn't know anything about koalas or anything like this. So I actually went to Brunswick Valley Landcare. And so when I got my first environmental trust grant, I went to Alison and she helped me through, once we got the grant, she helped me through that. So we work very closely with all of them. So when we're promoting our plantings, every single planting, I send it to Brunswick Valley Landcare, Richmond Valley Landcare, Kyogle Landcare, Lismore Council, Byron Council. So we all work really well together, that we help, promote each other's plantings and stuff like that. And also with the other Landcare groups, they quite often will put landholders towards us, because if they can't fund them or they don't have the capacity to do it, they will give it to us and we will try and get the funding for it. So for example, we're doing a planting on the 25th of August out at Cedar Point, and we got that property through Kyogle Landcare, who said you might be able to help them. We used funding from WWF for that. So we work collaboratively with them.
Mm-hmm. Now, okay. Now, next question, and I apologize, I missed that one, which got 5 votes from Andrea here. Do you work with wildlife carers / koala carers to determine what species of plant, or how do you decide? And do you allow them to harvest from the ones you plant? That's the question.
Okay, so I used to be a rescuer with Friends of the Koala. So at one point I was rescuing and doing this. So we work very closely with Friends of the Koala. No, we don't. Because all our plantings are on private land, so those trees, we want koalas to go to them. So Friends of the Koala have got their own plantations that they harvest for their koalas in care. But all our properties, no, we don't get them harvested, because obviously we want them to grow as quick as possible so that koalas will start using them. And that actually has been the case. There's a couple of properties that we've been to, and Jake and I went to one here in Bangalow, and after 18 months, there was evidence of koalas using these trees, because they grow really fast up here, and there were scratchings and scats at the base. So I hope that answered that question.
Mm-hmm. Fantastic. Now, by the way, lots of thanks and awesomes, so that's incredible. Now, the next question we have here is, how do your tree species, for example, eucalyptus, work with other native plants and are not in competition?
Yeah, so that's the question for me. So it's my role basically to select our plants that we are going to use in our plantings. And so the issue of competition, I think, is a very difficult one. So one thing that we've dealt with in the issue of competition is planting in areas or around areas which might have rainforest invasion, really strong rainforest invasion into the planting, or the fact that it might have really vigorous weed invasion like camphor laurel, which grows very quickly on our rich soil. So when I've been doing my research to figure out how to put together our plantings and how to control weeds on our plantings and make sure that eucalypts aren't outcompeted, there's a lot of conflicting information, wherein the rainforest people say that the eucalypts will outcompete the rainforest trees and that eucalypts stop rainforest from growing. And then the eucalypt people say that the rainforest trees will outcompete the eucalypt trees and stop the eucalypts from growing. So this has been something that's been really hard to get a really definitive answer on from a scientific level. So, but in our field experience, we have really great vigorous growth of our eucalypts in our plantings, really great growth. And then a lot of the time, where possible, we're just choosing other species that are well adapted to the site, that are bushy, that will help create shade and other habitat for koalas, while keeping those trees height restricted. It's probably been the biggest thing for me in my selection. So if a tree's maximum growth height is 15 meters, then the eucalypt, which grows to 30 to 50 meters, will have something like 15 to 35 meters above that plant in the future. So, and other than that, that's been a really difficult issue when we're working on red soil with sites that have really good response to rainforest trees. But otherwise, we just work with trees that naturally grow in those environments. So say in a swamp environment, we'll just be using those swamp sclerophyll species to create shade, to bring biodiversity into the environment, and not outcompete those eucalypts, mainly by use of the height restriction policy.
Oh, awesome. Thanks very much. And we have, unfortunately, we only have time for last question, and that is based on the votes from Gillian here. And the question is, do you look at feral cat and fox and other invasive species control in your plantings and corridors? So, yeah.
Well, because we're dealing with private landholders, so the landholders themselves, they will, landholders themselves, if they've got, you know, like wild dogs problems and stuff like that, they're dealing with it themselves. So our pure focus is getting those trees in the ground. So as Jake said, I call him my tree man. He works out for the shires that we're dealing with and site by site what trees to plant and stuff like that. But when it comes to all of that stuff, that's up to the landholders for that. But when we are planting our trees, and say, for example, you've got wallabies and stuff like that, then we will include wallaby fencing, wallaby guards and stuff like that. So that's probably the only level that we're actually looking at there for where it's going to affect our trees and the koalas in the future.
Yeah.
Good question, though. I really appreciate that question, because it'll probably be an issue that we encounter more as we grow and move into new areas.
Mm-hmm. Okay, well, thank you very much. It was so inspiring to hear what you've been able to achieve. Truly, indeed, the definition of grassroots movement, as far as I can tell. So thanks very much to Linda and Jake and all the koalas involved and everyone who asked the questions. And our next session will start in 45 minutes, which is 1:35 Sydney time. So yeah, for everyone, you can go to the program again, and I'll see you next time. Okay, thank you. Thanks.